Hi y'all, and welcome to Bradley the Singing Chef. Well, it's almost Christmas time, and that means that I'm gonna bake up some goodies to eat on around the house while we are celebrating. So the first thing I'm gonna make today is a batch of cookies. It's one of my favorite cookies, the Snickerdoodle. Now, I think this is a way underrated cookie in the plethora of cookies out there. I love the cinnamon sugar flavor of these gorgeous cookies, and I think you will too. So let's get started. Got my recipe on hand, ready to go. Here we go. All right, first thing you need to do is preheat your oven to 375 degrees to get that ready to bake, okay? Then you're gonna need 2 cookie sheets, because this makes a pretty big batch of ooey gooey Snickerdoodles. I cannot wait. So I've already prepared one of the cookie sheets. I've got my second one here. And you want to make sure that you line this with parchment paper or a sill mat if you have it. I'm not quite that fancy, so parchment paper it is. And the easiest way to get the rolled parchment to stay on your pan is to actually crumple it into a ball and then unwrap it again. And that is just going to give you an easier way to flatten that parchment. It doesn't have to be pretty. You're not serving the parchment, you're just serving the cookies. So yeah, so that is my second one, and I'll put it down here below with my other pan on the ready for when these cookies are good to go. All right, you know on the top of Snickerdoodles, there's always this beautiful dusting of cinnamon and sugar. Well, we're gonna make that topping first. So what I need for that, in a small bowl, I've got some granulated sugar here, and I need about 1/3 of a cup. It'll probably be more than you actually need, but that's a pretty good approximation. And we're gonna take that 1/3 of a cup of granulated sugar and add 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. So here's my 1/2 teaspoon. Come on, there you go. There's 1/2. 1.5. Then I'm just going to use that measuring spoon to mix that all up in the bowl. And when we make this cookie dough, we're going to roll it into balls and then roll it all around in this topping before it goes onto the cookie sheets. It already smells good. I could eat that with a spoon, but that would probably not be good for my sugar level. Okay, so let's get going with making the rest of this. Next, we need to work on our dry ingredients, okay? And I'm gonna sift together my dry ingredients. Now this is where it's a little bit different than most cookies as far as recipes go. Of course you're gonna have some flour, of course you're gonna have some baking soda, but there's this third ingredient that goes into the dry mix, in addition to those two plus cinnamon, with some cream of tartar. You'll probably find this in any spice rack that you may have bought. It's a beautiful, beautiful taste, and it gives just that little bit of twang to these cookies. So we are going to take 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Level that off. There's 1 into my sifter. Here's my second. And 1 last cup of all-purpose into the sifter. All right, to that, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the cream of tartar, okay? So, let's see. With this jar, only my 1/4 of a teaspoon fits. So, we're gonna do 2 teaspoons, so that's 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 teaspoon. 5, 6, 7, 8/4. That's the math, Bradley. That makes 2 teaspoons. Baking is harder than cooking. There's like math and stuff. Okay, so that is my cream of tartar into the mix. Next, I need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'll use the 4th measuring because I've already got it out. 1, 2, 3, and 4 of baking soda. Makes the world a happy place. And then I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. You're like, why are you putting salt into something that is sweet? Trust me, salt is not a bad thing in this recipe at all. All right, to that mixture, I like to also add, there's my oven beeping telling me that it is preheated to 375. I'm gonna add another 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon right into the dry. Not just on the outside of the cookie, but I want it in the cookie as well. All right, so now that I got all that in my sifter, just gonna tap, tap, tap into my bowl, mixing all those dry ingredients together. Gosh, I love the smell of cinnamon. It is one of my favorite things in the world. And to me, it's like the smell of Christmas in the house, which is why I love baking these Snickerdoodles around the holidays. I'm actually baking this particular batch of Snickerdoodles for my friends at work at Walt Disney World. I'm actually so blessed and honored to be brought back to Walt Disney World and my family at the Voices of Liberty. So I'm bringing this batch of cookies not only to them, but also the tech staff that is at the American Gardens Theater, where we're currently doing our Voices of the Season show through the 31st of December. So if you're in the Orlando area, please come out, say hello to Bradley the Singing Chef. I'm just Bradley there, but say hello anyway. I'm in a giant top hat and a red coat. You can't miss me. All right, so those are our dry ingredients. I'm just going to set those to the side while we start working on the wet ingredients. All right, so I've got my stand mixer here. You can use a hand mixer for this for sure. If you've got enough gumption, you can probably actually use an arm and a giant whisk, but I think that the best way to do these cookies to get them extra chewy and fluffy is to use a stand mixer, okay? If you don't have that, a hand mixer will probably work just as well. I would not advise killing yourself by using your arm. So what I have are count them, 2 sticks of my favorite ingredient in all the land, butter. This is unsalted butter for this recipe, and I've had it out coming to room temperature. That's incredibly important that it's at room temperature. If you want to cheat, you can toss them in the microwave for like 5 seconds at a time until they get there, but easier just to leave them out when you know you're going to make this in the morning. You know, leave them out for a few hours and they should soften up pretty easily. 2 full sticks of unsalted butter into my stand mixer. And the first step that we've got to do is we need to cream together this butter with some sugar. All right, I need 1 1/3 cups of granulated white sugar into the bowl. So there's 1/3, and I'll do 3 more of that. See, more math. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 makes a cup plus the first third that I put in. So that should be the correct math to get that going. So what I do now is my stand mixer is going to go on a pretty high speed for at least 2 minutes, okay? Because I want this to get all that sugar incorporated into the butter and fluff up that room temperature butter. So I'm going to turn this on for about 2 minutes and I'll be right back. All right guys, I am back. I've let this whip the butter and sugar into a frenzy for about 2 minutes. So I'm gonna take my spatula, and I did this about midway through as well. Scrape down the edge of your bowl to make sure all of those ingredients get down in there, into the mix of things. Perfect. Great. That has everything going. Great. So to this, I am going to add an egg and 1 egg yolk. Okay, I don't need the full amount of egg whites. So I'm going to crack this whole egg into a bowl, and then with the other egg, I'm gonna just separate out the white over my garbage bowl, hang on to the yolk. Oh yeah. So 1 egg and 1 yolk is all you need. And we're gonna drop that into our wet ingredients, along with 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, okay? So 1, 4 halves make 2 teaspoons of vanilla. All right, now I'm gonna mix this together and get all of that incorporated. Now that I got everything scraped down, just put those eggs in there, and I'm gonna put it on about a medium speed, just until everything gets combined. That looks perfect. It's nice and fluffy. All right, for adding the dry ingredients, I am going to give myself a safety net, also known as a dishcloth, that I'm going to drape over this as I put in the flour and all the dry ingredients, because otherwise, if you turn your mixer on too high, you could be wearing half of the dry ingredients that are supposed to go into the cookies, okay? So get your safety net ready to go. Take your dry ingredients, and we're gonna put these in just a little at a time, okay? Maybe a quarter of the mixture that's in the bowl in the first go round. Set that to the side. Put our safety net on the bowl and turn on the mixer. Pretty low speed, just to incorporate it. You can peak once you get past that first couple of turns. Just like that, that first batch is incorporated. Put in another quarter to a third of your dry into the bowl. Put on your safety net. Low first. And get that all incorporated. This is gonna be a pretty thick cookie dough, okay, that we're making. So fear not that you have quite a bit of dry ingredients going into this batch. We're making 2 cookie sheets worth, so also a pretty big batch. Safety net on, low, and slow at first. Crank it up a notch, just until it gets incorporated. Take a peek. All right, last portion of dry ingredients. I think I can get all of that in one go. We shall see. Safety net, turn it on. Slow and low at first. And you can speed it up as it starts incorporating. The mixer's gonna work a little harder because the dough's getting thicker. And once that flour is in there, oh yeah, you are good to go. I'm gonna raise this paddle so you can actually see it's really a thick dough. All right, so let's get all of this off of the beater, because those are cookies right there. Oh my gosh. It's really tempting to eat the cookie dough, but don't, because there's raw eggs in it. I know. Everyone says that you can eat cookie dough, but it's not really that good for you if it has raw eggs in the dough. There may be some other version of a no-bake cookie that you could eat the dough. All right, get all that goodness off of my paddle. I have this fancy paddle for my mixer from KitchenAid that actually has like an outer rim on it that helps scrape down the side of the bowl quite a bit. But you still have to scrape the bowl, let's be honest. All right, so now that I have my dough nice and ready to roll into my topping, I'm gonna clean up my station a little bit so I've got some more room to work, and then we will get these cookies in the oven very soon. I'll be right back. Hey y'all, I am back. I've cleaned up my station. I've got freshly washed hands. I am ready to roll some cookies. All right, so I'm gonna just take a scoop at a time on my spatula, trying to make them about the same even amount. And I'm just gonna put them in my hands and roll them into balls. About the size of like a regular meatball is what I'm gonna go for, because I want pretty big Snickerdoodles, because that way you can say, I only had a Snickerdoodle, and then it's a huge Snickerdoodle. So guilt-free, right? All right, so I take that ball, I put it into the topping that we made earlier with the cinnamon and the sugar, and I roll it all around in there. Then I'm gonna place these onto my parchment. And you just keep making the rolled balls of dough in your freshly cleaned hands. Pop them in there, bury them in that coating in the bowl, toss them all around, and put them on your baking sheet. Probably fit about 3 in a row across. I'm gonna keep rolling these out, and I will be right back. Hey y'all, I'm back. Okay, so I have rolled out 24 of these lovely Snickerdoodle balls into my cinnamon and my sugar, and I've put them onto my prepared baking pans, my cookie sheets. My oven is preheated at 375. The last thing I'm gonna do before I pop these in the oven, and it's gonna take maybe all of 10 to 12 minutes for these to actually cook. I'm gonna take the rest of that cinnamon and sugar mixture that I got, because I just can't leave all left alone, and I'm just gonna pinch a little bit and top each of these with an extra pinch of the topping. When these flatten out, that's gonna give us a little bit of a cinnamon sugar sort of crust on the top that'll crackle in the oven. And that's, to me, part of the delight of a good Snickerdoodle cookie. It's the extra little crunch. Like I said, these are not going to take very long at all to bake in the oven. 10 to 12 minutes. When you take them out of the oven, you're going to need to let them rest on the cookie sheet for a while. And while they are still warm, you're going to take the flat side of a spoon and actually press down on the cookies to flatten them out a little bit. They're gonna, when they come out of the oven, they're gonna be pretty poofy looking. And you wanna flatten those down just a little bit. Again, that helps that crackle outer layer to really set up nicely. Gonna put these into my 375-degree preheated oven for 10 to 12 minutes. When I take them out of the oven, I'm going to actually press them with the flat side of the spoon to flatten them out. They'll be kind of puffed up when they come out of the oven, and you want to flatten those down to get that kind of crackly topping that you're used to seeing on a beautiful Snickerdoodle cookie. Once I get them out of the oven, I'll show you that last step, and then we'll talk about cooling them and eating them. I'll be right back. Hi y'all, I am back. I just took the Snickerdoodles out of the oven, and you can see they're kind of like domed. They're really kind of puffy. So the last step is I'm going to take a normal spoon, and I'm just going to mash down the tops of those just a little bit. They've already deflated a little bit, getting just from the oven out here to the countertop. But I do want these to be kind of flat, and that's going to help crackle that top a little bit. This goes down. Same thing over here. And that's also going to help make these Snickerdoodles extra chewy in the center for some reason. That is what does it for me when it comes to a Snickerdoodle. I don't want it to just like be a snappy cookie. I want it to be chewy. All right, so I have all those pressed down. These are gonna stay on the baking sheet for 10 minutes, cooling there first. Then I'm gonna transfer them to these cooling racks and let them cool completely before we dig in, okay? So let's let these cool. I'll be right back. Hey y'all, I am back, and oh my goodness, this kitchen smells amazing. These cookies have been cooling here on these cooling racks for a while, and I have to try one. I'm dying to eat one of these. but I have to get close so I can show you. Look at this cookie. Chewy goodness. Oh my gosh. Mmm. I can't stop. It is so good. Oh my gosh, they're so chewy and light. I think you're really gonna love this recipe, and I really do hope that you will try it for yourself. Make this your version of Snickerdoodle and this your version of Christmas. Thank you so much for joining me on Bradley the Singing Chef. I hope you'll subscribe to my video channel, like and share these videos with your family and friends. Have an amazing Merry Christmas. Eat well, love always. Bon appetit, y'all.